Ananiah,
Yeah.
how you feel about the way everybody's been threatening you for speaking the truth?
I feel like Elijah at Mount Carmel. With Yahweh on my side, I have no fear of none of that.
Shalom, Israel. What's up, YouTube? Adonai 17 back with another one. The topic for tonight is idolatry for dummies. We're going to be reading from Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 and 6. Let's get it. The Torah mentions idolatry long before it defines the concept and its practices. It is not until the revelation at Mount Sinai that Yahweh gives the guidelines for defining idolatry. Yahweh explains the concept and practice of idolatry in Exodus 20, verses 3 and 6.
Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 through 6. You shall have no other God besides me. You shall not make for yourself a sculpted image or any likeness what is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, your Elohim, yhwh, am a impassionate Elohim, visiting the guilty of the parents upon the children, upon the third and upon the fourth generation of those who rejected me, but showing kindness to the 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments.
I want to avert that we are given the all-inclusive rule of what idolatry is in verse 3. I also assert that verse 4 and the first part of verse 5 continue to define the broadest elements of the concept. Verse 4 is the next step from the all-inclusive boundary encompassing all forms of idolatry. It defines idolatry in its broadest conceptual, physical terms. The general description given covers everything that might be found in Yahweh's creations, including people. The first part of verse 5 take the next broad stroke, forbidding bowing down to any of the seeming infinite forms of idolatry in the universe. The rest of verse 5 and verse 6 express the drawbacks of violating the commandment and the benefits of obeying the commandment. For sake of modern day 2022 mindset that may discount or discredit idolatry, I will show the English and Hebrew meanings of the important words associated with idolatry. So let's get to it.
The word used for idolatry in verse 4 is sculptured image, which is number 6459. Hebrew lexicon. Hebrew word pesel, which means an idol, an image. It's a noun masculine. Short definition: an idol, an image. The meanings, again: an idol, an image. Carved, graven image. Let's move on to the next word. The root word for sculpted image is pasal, which is Hebrew lexicon number 6458. Pasal means to hew into shape. Short definition: to hew into shape. And the meaning: to hew into shape. Grave, and hew, a prime root to carve, whether wood or stone. Grave hew.
Let's get back to it. The English definition for pesel is given as idol, image, sculpture, effigy, statue. A definition that also includes figurines, statuettes, that is, any sculpted or molded image representing some level of deity. I say some level of deity because idolatry is fraught with many levels of godhood, the lowest of which is God incarnated in human beings, or sons of gods, or the other word they say, ben Yahwehs. The term pesel is also used in Torah for molded images. The concrete language of Torah expressing idolatry is physical represented in the form of some form or figure. Anyhow, as any idolater, whether 3,000 years ago or present day, and they will likely tell you, you crazy, and they are not worshiping idols. Sad, but it's true. They often have and still say that the figure or picture they bow down to is merely a symbol, a real-world representation of the God they are worshiping. Therefore, in their minds, what they do is not idolatry at all. Even the anthropolaters who worship a human as a god and believe in deification of a human also believe they aren't idolaters either. They know the figure or the human they're worshiping isn't actually the God they are worshiping. However, the actions of idolaters completely undermines their words and logic. Of course, that premise is based on the idea that there are many gods, and it's perfectly fine to worship a human being and make images of them. However, the Elohim Yahweh says something very different than man offers to support his idolatry. The context of Exodus 20, verses 3 through 6, deal with idolatry in toto. Therefore, emphasize on the physical aspect of idolatry does not exclude the abstract concept of idolatry. Logically, that is very clear, and y'all should understand what I'm talking about. But anyhow, it is also plainly addressed throughout the Torah. The general term used to convey the vain futility of worshiping the concept of idolatry and the physical representation of gods is simply gods of others, as it says in verse 3. At first glance, it would be easy to interpret verse 3 as applying only to idols and parts of creation. When we remember idolatry has first a conceptual foundation accompanied by a physical representation, we can understand verse 3. Equally applies to any form of idolatry, whether abstract or physical. Idolaters may have anywhere from one to many gods, not of all which are represented in a graven form. Therefore, we may correctly understand verse 3 as applicable to both the specific and to the principle or abstract concept of idolatry. The all-inclusive context of verse 3, coupled with the slightly more specific context of verse 4, makes a complete open and shut case, plus airtight definition of idolatry. Like I said, once again, simple logic comes to our aid in understanding this premise. Idolatry is a product of man's free association imagination, which began before the great flood through building upon a misunderstanding that developed into a full-fledged distortion of Yahweh's truth.
You already know. Some niggas just can't take truth. Truth is a tough pill to swallow.
Like, share, and subscribe.